October 2018. Las Vegas, Nevada. 10:47 a.m. Tony Martinez was standing in a crowd of 43 people at a storage auction, waiting for Unit 892 to be opened. He'd been to maybe 200 storage auctions in his life, bought and sold everything from furniture to collectibles, made a decent living doing it, but he'd never seen what was about to happen. The auctioneer, a woman named Carol who'd been doing this for 15 years, rolled up the metal door of Unit 892. The crowd pushed forward to look inside like they always did. Then everything changed. Someone in the front screamed. Actually screamed. Another person yelled, "Holy SH." Carol, the auctioneer, went pale. She immediately stepped in front of the open door, blocking everyone's view. "Stop. Everyone step back. Step back right now. The auction for this unit is canceled. Nobody is bidding. Nobody is going inside. Everyone needs to leave this area immediately." The crowd erupted. "What? What? We have a right to bid. You can't just cancel." Carol was already on her phone. "Yes, I need police at 4750 Boulder Highway. Storage facility. Unit 892. You need to send someone now." I can't explain over the phone. Just send someone." Tony Martinez, who'd driven 40 miles to be at this auction, who'd planned to bid up to $5,000 on this unit, was furious. What was inside that storage unit? And why was he being told he couldn't bid on something that was legally up for auction? What happened over the next 3 hours would turn into one of the most bizarre legal battles in storage auction history. A case that would go all the way to federal court. A case about a 23-year-old robbery that nobody had solved. And a case about whether Tony Martinez deserved $370,000 for seeing something he was never supposed to see. But to understand this insane story, you need to know what was inside that storage unit. And you need to know about an armored car heist from 1995 that the FBI had given up on solving. Let's start with Tony Martinez. Who was he and why was he at that auction? Tony was 52 years old, born and raised in Las Vegas, married with 3 kids in college. He'd worked in casino maintenance for 20 years, then got laid off in 2015 when his casino was sold and the new owners brought in their own people at T49. Suddenly unemployed, Tony needed income. That's when he discovered storage auctions. He started going to auctions every weekend, learning what sold, what didn't, how to spot valuable items from the doorway, how to bid smart. Within a year, he was making $4,000 to $6,000 a month buying and reselling storage unit contents. Not getting rich, but paying his bills. Supporting his family, Tony had a system. He researched which facilities had auctions. He showed up early. He studied every unit carefully before bidding. He never bid emotionally. He had a maximum price for every unit and stuck to it. This particular Saturday, there were 8 units being auctioned at this facility on Boulder Highway. Tony had looked at all of them during the preview period. Unit 892 was interesting. It was a large unit, 10 by 20 feet. Through the partially open door, he could see it was packed full. Furniture, boxes, what looked like sports equipment, maybe tools. The rental records showed the unit hadn't been paid on in 18 months. Renter was listed as J. Morrison. No contact information worked. Standard abandonment case. Tony figured he'd bid up to $5,000. The unit looked promising, even if he only made $2,000 profit after clearing it out and selling everything. That was a decent weekend. The auction started at 10 a.m. Units 1 through 7 sold without incident. Tony bought Unit 4 for $800. Solid buy. Then came Unit 892. The last one. Carol, the auctioneer, seemed nervous when she approached it. Later, people would wonder if she somehow knew what was inside. She rolled up the door, started her auctioneer patter. "All right, folks, last unit of the day. This is a big one. Lots of stuff inside. Let's take a look." The crowd surged forward. Tony was in the 3rd row. He couldn't see clearly at first. Then people in front of him moved, and he got a clear view. In the back of the storage unit, taking up maybe a third of the space, was a vehicle. A white armored truck, like the kind that transports cash between banks. The door of the armored truck was slightly open, and inside, visible even from 15 feet away, were gray canvas bags. Bank bags, with logos on them. That's when the screaming started. Carol shut everything down immediately. Canceled the auction. Called police. Within 20 minutes, Las Vegas Metro Police arrived. Then more police. Then detectives. Then, About an hour later, FBI agents. The crowd of auction attendees was told to stay. Police needed statements from everyone about what they'd seen. Tony was annoyed but compliant. He'd done nothing wrong. He just wanted to bid on a storage unit. A detective interviewed him. Did you see inside the armored vehicle? I saw bags. That's it. From far away. Did you touch anything? No. Auctioneer stopped everything immediately. Okay, we're going to need you to stick around a bit longer. Tony ended up sitting in the parking lot for 3 hours while FBI agents processed the scene like it was a crime scene. Because it was. Finally, an FBI agent came over to talk to the crowd. His name was Special Agent Derek Wilson. Folks, I know you've been waiting a long time. Here's what I can tell you. That storage unit contains evidence related to an unsolved armored car robbery from 1995. The vehicle in that unit was reported stolen during that robbery. We've recovered it today, thanks to this auction. You're all free to go. We may contact some of you for follow-up questions. The crowd dispersed, buzzing with excitement and frustration. Tony went home and immediately Googled Las Vegas armored car robbery, 1995. What he found made his jaw drop. March 17, 1995. St. Patrick's Day. 2 armed men ambushed a Brinks armored car outside a bank in Las Vegas. They held the guards at gunpoint, took the truck, and disappeared. The amount stolen: $3.7 million in cash. The truck was never found. The money was never recovered. The robbers were never caught. It became one of the most famous unsolved heists in Las Vegas history. And apparently, the truck had been sitting in a storage unit on Boulder Highway for 23 years that Tony's mind was racing. That storage unit was legally abandoned. It was up for auction. If the auction had proceeded, someone would have bought it. Legally. Would they have gotten to keep what was inside? He called a lawyer the next day. His name was Mitchell Brennan. Mitch, I need to understand something. If I'd bought that storage unit before the police showed up, would I legally own the contents? Mitchell thought about it. Potentially. Storage auction sales are legal transfers of property. If you bought it in good faith, not knowing it contained stolen property, there's an argument you'd have a claim. What? Tony explained the whole situation. Mitchell's tone changed. Tony, this is actually really interesting legally. Here's the thing. Brinks, the armored car company, offered a 10% reward for information leading to the recovery of the stolen money. That reward was never claimed. If that money is still in that truck, the reward would be $370,000. But I didn't provide information. I just showed up to an auction. You were present when the truck was discovered. Your being there, as a potential bidder, is arguably what led to the discovery. The storage facility was about to auction that unit. If not for the auction, the truck might have sat there for years more. So what are you saying? I'm saying you might have a claim to that reward. Tony thought Mitchell was crazy, but Mitchell was serious. Let me look into this. No promises, but it's worth exploring. Over the next week, the story exploded in the news. Stolen Brinks truck found in storage unit after 23 years. It was everywhere. The FBI confirmed they'd opened the armored truck and found $2.8 million still inside in the bank bags. The rest, about $900,000, was gone. Presumably the robbers had taken some cash and hidden the rest along with the truck. Through forensic accounting and investigation, the FBI determined that the storage unit had been rented in 1995, shortly after the robbery, by a man named James Morrison using fake identification. Morrison had paid cash for 2 years up front. Then, in 1997, he'd paid for another 5 years up front. Then nothing. Morrison's real identity was never confirmed. He'd vanished. Possibly left the country. Possibly died. The FBI had no leads. The storage facility had tried to contact him when payments stopped in 2002, but all contact information was fake. After the required legal waiting period, they put it up for auction in 2018. Brinks issued a statement. We are grateful for the recovery of the vehicle and the funds. We are reviewing the circumstances of the recovery to determine if any reward is applicable. That's when Mitchell Brennan, Tony's lawyer, sent Brinks a letter formally claiming the $370,000 reward on behalf of Tony Martinez. Brinks denied the claim. Their position: Tony didn't provide information. He was just at an auction. The storage facility deserves credit for the discovery, not him. Mitchell filed a lawsuit in federal court. Martinez versus Brinks, Incorporated. The legal argument was fascinating. Tony Martinez was a potential purchaser at a legal auction. The auction is what prompted the storage facility to finally open and empty this long-abandoned unit. If Tony or someone else had bought it before police arrived, Brinks would have lost that $2.8 million forever, as the buyer could potentially claim good faith purchaser rights. Therefore, Tony's presence as a bidder directly contributed to the recovery. Brinks argued back. Tony did nothing. He just showed up. The auctioneer is the one who called police. The facility management is the one who maintained the records. Tony has no claim. The case dragged on for 14 months. During that time, Tony became a minor celebrity. He did interviews, appeared on a podcast about true crime. People recognized him around Las Vegas, but he still hadn't seen a penny of any reward. Then something unexpected happened. The FBI found James Morrison, or rather, found out who he was. Through DNA evidence recovered from the storage unit and cross-referenced with databases, they identified Morrison as James Novak, a former Brinks employee who'd worked at the company from 1992 to 1994. He'd been fired for policy violations. James Novak had died in 2003 in Mexico City. Heart attack. Age 48. He'd been living under an assumed name. The FBI also found evidence that Novak's accomplice in the robbery was his cousin, Robert Novak, who had died in a car accident in 1999 in California. Both robbers were dead. The case would never go to trial. It was officially closed. But here's where it got interesting for Tony. James Novak had a daughter, Anna Novak, 38 years old, living in Oregon. She'd had no contact with her father since she was a teenager. Didn't even know he'd moved to Mexico or died there. She was interviewed by FBI. She knew nothing about the robbery. But legally, she was James Novak's heir. And that meant she potentially had a claim to the storage unit contents. Her lawyer made an argument. The $2.8 million in the storage unit was her father's property. Yes, it was stolen, but he had physical possession. She's his heir. Therefore, she has a claim to it. Legal experts laughed at this argument. You can't inherit stolen property and claim legal ownership. But Anna's lawyer had a backup argument. Brinks Insurance had paid out the $3.7 million to the banks back in 1995. Therefore, Brinks technically no longer owned that money. The insurance company did. And the insurance company had written it off as a loss 20 years ago. So who legally owned the recovered money now? It became a massive legal mess. Four parties claiming rights to the $2.8 million. Brinks, the insurance company, Anna Novak, and potentially Tony Martinez as the good faith auction bidder who never got to complete his purchase. In March 2020, a federal judge finally issued a ruling. The $2.8 million would be returned to Brinks. They had the strongest legal claim as the original rightful possessor. Anna Novak got nothing. You cannot inherit stolen property. The insurance company got nothing. They'd been compensated by the bank's insurance policies in a complex web of coverage that had been settled in 1996. And Tony Martinez? The judge ruled he had no claim to the money itself. He never purchased the storage unit. The sale was canceled before completion. He had no property rights. But, and this was huge, the judge ruled that Tony did have a valid claim to the reward. Here's the reasoning. Brinks had offered a public reward for information leading to recovery. Tony Martinez's presence as a bidder at that auction was a direct cause of the discovery. The storage facility was auctioning the unit specifically because of bidders like Tony. Without people showing up to bid, there would be no auction. Without the auction, the unit might never have been opened. Therefore, Tony's participation in the auction process was a material contributing factor. The judge ordered Brinks to pay Tony Martinez $370,000 that Brinks appealed. Lost. In August 2020, Tony Martinez received a check for $370,000. $370,000 for showing up to an auction, for standing in a crowd, for being in the right place at the right time, for seeing something he was never supposed to see. Tony paid off his mortgage, set up college funds for his kids, invested the rest. He still goes to storage auctions, still buys units, still resells contents. People ask me if I'm hoping to find another armored truck. He laughs. No, that was a once-in-a-lifetime thing. I'm just grateful for it. The storage facility where Unit 892 was located closed in 2021. But before it closed, they put up a sign. Site of the famous Brinks truck discovery. Unit 892. Tourists would stop and take photos. Carol, the auctioneer who called the police that day, says it was the most surreal moment of her career. I've auctioned thousands of storage units. Found jewelry, found cash, found weird stuff. But an actual armored car from an actual unsolved heist? That was wild. And the fact that I canceled the auction right before someone could buy it. I sometimes wonder what would have happened if I'd been 2 minutes slower. If someone had already won the bid, that would have been a legal nightmare. Anna Novak, James Novak's daughter, gave one interview after the case ended. I never knew my father was a criminal. He left when I was 14. I thought he was just a deadbeat dad. Finding out he'd been a bank robber who stole millions, it's surreal. I'm not proud of it, but I'm also not responsible for his choices. I tried to make a legal claim because my lawyer said I could. But honestly, I'm glad I didn't get the money. That money was stolen. It ruined people's lives. It doesn't belong to me. She seems like a decent person who got dragged into her father's mess through no fault of her own. The FBI closed the case officially in December 2020. Special Agent Derek Wilson, who'd been at the scene that day, gave a statement. This case remained unsolved for 23 years. We'd honestly given up hope of ever recovering the vehicle or the funds. The fact that it was discovered through a storage auction is remarkable. It's a reminder that evidence can hide in the most unexpected places. As for the $900,000 that was never recovered, nobody knows where it went. James Novak probably spent it during his years in Mexico, or buried it somewhere, or gave it to people. It's gone, but $2.8 million being recovered 23 years later is still a major win. Tony Martinez's story became famous in storage auction circles. He's a legend now. The guy who found an armored car. The guy who got $370,000 for doing nothing but showing up. But Tony pushes back on that narrative. I didn't do nothing. I was there as a legitimate bidder. I was participating in a legal process. I drove 40 miles to be there. I researched the unit. I was prepared to spend $5,000 of my own money. That auction happening, with bidders showing up, is what caused that unit to be opened. Without us, it might have sat there forever. So yeah, I earned that reward. He's not wrong. And here's the thing that makes this story incredible. Tony almost didn't go to that auction. His wife had wanted him to help with yard work that Saturday. He'd been tempted to skip the auction and stay home. At the last minute, he decided to go. If he'd stayed home, someone else would have been there. Someone else might have gotten the reward. Or maybe the auction would have been canceled with fewer bidders and the unit would have stayed closed longer, but Tony went. He was there. He was a material part of the discovery, and the universe rewarded him for it. $370,000 for being in the right place at the right time, for participating in a process, for showing up when he could have stayed home. But that's not just luck. That's the intersection of preparation, persistence, and timing. Tony Martinez didn't rob a bank. He didn't steal a truck. He didn't hide evidence. He just showed up to do his job, to bid on storage units like he did every week. And somehow, impossibly, that turned into $370,000. If this story blew your mind, you need to subscribe right now and turn on notifications. We share the most insane true stories of luck, timing, and legal battles that will make you question everything you know about fortune and fate. This isn't just about people getting rich. It's about being in the right place at the most unexpected times and what happens next. Drop a comment and tell me, would you have fought for that reward? Do you think Tony deserved it? Let's debate in the comments. And if you're thinking about going to a storage auction now, good. You never know what you might find. Subscribe, hit that notification bell, and I'll see you in the next video where I share another completely unbelievable true story that proves sometimes the most ordinary days turn into the most extraordinary moments.